So, imposter, quite the title for this video, and I hope you notice there's a question mark there, because it's quite a debatable question either side, whether Eddie Jones is regarded as a tactical genius of a coach who's playing the long game, or if he's been gaslighting the English rugby fans for the last 3 or 4 years since the 2019 World Cup. Depending on which side you fall on, this title might be offensive or might be supportive of your opinion. What I'm trying to do now is just give my thoughts on what I think has happened over the last little bit of time. And it seems like the axe is going to fall, or it very likely will, on Wednesday. The English RFU is having a meeting, another debate over whether they're going to replace Eddie Jones. Who they'll replace him with, maybe we'll leave that to another time, another video. But it certainly looks like might be curtains for old Eddie over there in England. So what I wanted to do is just look at his coaching career, and let's work out if he is the tactical genius that some people purport that he is. He's been coaching a long time. One of the first major jobs that he had after coaching in Japan. He's half Japanese, if you didn't know, so he has a strong connection with Japan, where I'm actually living now. And he coached in Japan at, I think, a high school. Did some coaching over here, trying to earn his stripes. And then he went back to Australia with the Brumbies. He had a reasonably successful spell with the Brumbies. It was 3 years. So that number is going to come up a lot, 3 years. And Brumbies were the first team, I think, to win the Super Rugby, the first Australian team to win the Super Rugby. So you can regard it as very successful. Some players came through under his leadership, George Gregan notably. And after that, after a really good performance by Australia A versus Alliance, and one of their legendary coaches, the Australian coaches, Rod McQueen, he retired, and old Eddie was given the job. He was a pretty young coach at the time. This is like almost 20 years ago now. And he got off to a flying start. Of course, he inherited an amazing team from McQueen, who'd won the 1999 World Cup and the Tri-Nations, and they'd beaten the 2001 Lions in the Test Series. So, you know, it was a well-established team. McQueen having retired, Eddie took over the reins and he did well. Unfortunately for him, Australia hit a bad run of results after about 3 years in, and Eddie was relieved of his duties. After that, this is where it gets a bit patchy. So he took on consultancy roles with some English clubs. So that's, I think, where the bond was established with English rugby. And then he coached the Reds in Australia, who had a terrible run of it, and again was relieved of duties there. Following that, he went back to Japan and coached the club side with some great international stars at the end of their career. But after that, he was given the job as Japan national coach. And of course, nobody can forget that famous victory Japan achieved in the England 2015 World Cup. So I think that cemented his legacy, really. And you'll find that with Eddie Jones a lot. It's 1 or 2 amazing performances from his teams which kind of overshadow the general kind of trend of the teams at the time. Again, it was about 3 years in the Japan job. And I think why that becomes relevant is what Eddie Jones offers and what he doesn't offer. So from the Japan team, after that World Cup, the English coach got sacked, and Eddie was offered the highest paying coaching job in international rugby, and that was as coach of the English national team. Of course, anyone would. He seized it with both hands. And he got off to, quite a great run. I think they were undefeated in a bunch of games. It was almost like a world record, and they lost eventually to Ireland in Dublin. So they had a couple of they had a Grand Slam in the first season, and then another title, I think, after that. So again, that first 3 years of the purple patch, and Eddie capped it off with that amazing victory over New Zealand in the semi-final of the 2019 Japan World Cup, which everyone remembers. I remember it definitely. I was shocked by the result, to be honest with you, and the way England played, because you hadn't seen that like ferocious kind of style of rugby from England in a long time. Not for like 15, 20 years. So yeah, rightly so. He was regarded as an amazing coach. Since that time, and again, he went over his 3-year mark, which seems to be the amount of time that he performs well in his role. And there's a quote saying about his new assistant coach, which is something I'd like to talk about too, saying that Cockrell, when he went to Edinburgh, they needed some hard taskmaster, an autocrat, if you will, to whip them into shape and get their stuff together. But after that period was over, 1, 2, 3 years, then he became a liability. And I think that's what's happened with Eddie Jones in England. Like when he came in, he was a breath of fresh air. When he came in, he was a breath of fresh air. And that often happens with a new coach. The team gets a bump in results for a while, and then it kind of peters out. Eddie's been in charge of England now for 7 years. After that World Cup victory, which I still feel like the England fans are holding on to, England haven't really done much. The way he's organised the team, and when I say organised, I mean the players, the selection of the players, which a lot of people have questioned, and also the amount of assistant coaches he's had. For anyone in the coaching position, stability of your coaching staff must be a priority. And I saw an amazing article in the Telegraph that says he's had 17 assistant coaches in 7 years. That is unbelievable. And that was written like midway through this year. So I think he's recently changed defensive coach again, because the guy's gone back to rugby league. But that's phenomenal. To go through that number of assistant coaches is absolutely unheard of. So it gets on to the last part, which is, and Eddie Jones might be a good coach, but he certainly seems to be a bad manager. His interactions with the media also have left a lot to be desired. And I think the team has paid for it, and English rugby has paid for it. People can put up with a lot when they're winning, but as soon as you hit that point where you're struggling, like everyone is going to blame Eddie, because he hasn't made any friends over his tenure in England, particularly with the media as well, who's reporting now that he's probably going to get fired. So media are putting on the pressure because they've been treated badly. I mean, you might not like it, but it's a major aspect of a coach's role is dealing with the media. And I don't think he's done a very good job of that. And combine that with his lack of kind of leadership of the personnel, in terms of like, anyone who goes for a job, the first thing you look at is their staff turnover rate to judge whether a company is functioning correctly or not. If there's a high rate, then it's probably a mess, So I don't think it's any different for coaching at a international level, for what is probably the best funded international team in the world. So should Eddie go? I would say he's certainly not a tactical genius, but he's not a bad coach. I think his personality, in terms of rugby, I'm sure he's a very nice guy, like off the field, but in terms of his persona, if you will, then let's not call it personality, let's call it persona, has let him down, and I think that's been prevalent throughout his career. So should he go? That's the question. I don't know. Rugby World Cup, you've got like 9 months till the Rugby World Cup. If they have someone lined up, like we all know, a certain New Zealander from the Crusaders area, You know, if they've got him lined up already, then they're going to pull the trigger. If they haven't, they might wait. Should he go? I'm not sure if he should. He might pull another rabbit out of the hat in the next World Cup and then, you know, walk gracefully off into the sunset. But it's looking pretty bad for him at the moment. And like I said, he's burned so many bridges throughout his career. He doesn't have many allies. So let's see what happens Wednesday. And I'm foreseeing there'll be an announcement on Thursday. If they stick with him, I'll understand that. If they sack him with a viable replacement, I'll understand that too. So is he an imposter? No, he's a decent coach, but he's not. I don't think he's the genius that some people say that he is. And I think he was relying on that 2019 performance a little bit too much. England should be a lot better than they are and have been over the last 3 or 4 years. They've got all the money in the world. They've got a great pool of players. You know, they should be challenging every team in every match, you know, without doubt, even if you're bringing new blood through. So, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I know it's a kind of a controversial topic, and peace.